Question 2, Honourable Member for Rushen, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr President. Just to ask the Chief Minister what the Government's policy is on the circumstances where it is and is not appropriate to apologise for service failure.
Chief Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. Whilst there is no official policy regarding reaching across government, I hope departments, boards and officers are able to apologise when government service falls below the standard expected, or where there is a delay or a failure to provide a mandated service. I am well aware of many instances where apologies and an explanation have been proffered and that has been the end of the matter. I recognise that in some cases there may be a reluctance to apologise by government. This may be due to fear of an apology or an acknowledgement of fault being used as an admission of liability in legal proceedings. Linked to this, there is often concerns over whether an apology will affect insurance cover. This reluctance is troubling, as for many people, when things go wrong or there is a service failure, rectifying the situation going forward and a sincere apology is all that they want. It is regrettable that this fear has sometimes made government reluctant to offer a simple apology for fear of its consequences, but as matters stand, it is a matter for each department and board, being a separate body corporate, to determine on a case-by-case basis how to appropriately handle service complaints balanced against the potential risk of making an apology.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Thank you. In light of that answer, will the Chief Minister consider considering this a corporate matter for Council of Ministers and ensuring that a cross-government policy is put in place, and will he agree to have his officers or perhaps the Cabinet Office enter into discussions with insurers to make sure that we can, where faults have happened, look people in the eye, be accountable, because I think that's really important in maintaining trust in our public services.
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. I will be guided by honourable members of Tynwald here on their feelings on this matter. If there is a political support, then primary legislation could be introduced, like they have done in Scotland. It's called the Apologise Scotland Act 2016. And that's to make an apology inadmissible in certain civil proceedings. Obviously, it wouldn't be in our legislation programme for the rest of this administration, but it may well be getting prepared for the next administration going forward, should members of this Honourable Court be inclined to support such an idea. And if anyone would like to contact me with their views, I'll be more than happy to take that on board. Thank you, Mr President.
Ronken, Miss Edge.
Thank you, Mr President. I'm just wondering if the Chief Minister would agree with me, maybe for once. But if there's been a service failure, surely there's been possibly a complaints process that's been followed, and perhaps it would be prudent to also look at the complaints policy that government currently holds for all of its departments, offices and boards.
Chief Minister.
Thank you. I am more than happy on many occasions to agree with the Honourable Member for Onken, not just the odd time. But yes, I'm more than happy to, when we get the feedback from Honourable Members of this Court, Mr President, if there is a groundswell of support to do something similar to the Apologise Scotland Act 2016, that we will revisit our complaints procedures. Thank you.
Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr President. Does the Chief Minister feel it's important that when senior managers can look at the service failings that have happened in their department, can see that there has been a failings, that not apologising, irrespective of potential liability going forward, is defending the indefensible?
Chief Minister.
Well, I think it's a case-by-case basis, Mr President. There will be times when it's clear you've got something wrong, you apologise and hopefully you can move on. But sometimes government, we do things that we inadvertently cause a problem. And it may well be for the greater good you've done something, you've upset somebody, but if you apologise, then you've maybe set a very dangerous precedent and could be sued. So I really think it is a case-by-case basis. There is no black and white on this, and I would hope that common sense is used, but if members again feel that there is a need for a clear legal definition where people can freely apologise without fear that they're going to be hauled before a court and used in evidence against them, and then that may well be a satisfactory way forward.
Final supplementary question, Honourable Member for Douglas South, Mr Quine.
Thank you, Mr President. Mr President, would the Chief Minister agree with me that there's a propensity amongst many governments now around the world to continually apologise, often for the mistakes of previous governments, with the most, in the most negligible misdeeds? And will he therefore acknowledge that any apologies should only be made in the most apt instance? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
And they mean it.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the Honourable Member for Douglas South, Mr Quine, for a supplementary. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I think everything is on a case-by-case basis. There is no clear black and white situation here, and I think it will have to be looked at carefully when we apologise. Yes, we naturally want to apologise to people if we've let them down on something where our service hasn't met the criteria they expect, but equally we have to then protect the government and the taxpayer from any civil litigation that may inquire. So yes, a case-by-case basis.